What's going on, guys? It's SFU, and I'm going to bring you guys a quick tutorial on how to do everything for Discord Ace Perms, or not necessarily Discord Ace Perms, but more Badger scripts, specifically off of his website here with the docs. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to go over the API, just general installation, as well as Discord Ace Perms, the vehicle trust system potentially, as well as some of the whitelists and the chat roles. But to get started, we're going to go ahead and install in this first video the API and Discord Ace Perms, since those are the two most used scripts that I see from him. So what you're going to do is go ahead and first go to this link to the Badger Discord API link that I'm going to put in the description. You're also going to need your Discord developer portal and a new application. I'm not going to show my other applications, but basically you just go to the Discord developer portal, open up a new application, and it'll bring you directly to here. You can name it whatever you need to, and once it's here, you're good to go. Again, I'll put a link to that as well in the description. But basically from here, you're going to go ahead and hit the next button and go to installation. And then in here, there's a short tutorial that, as far as I'm concerned, is out of date. And there's instructions here as well in case you don't want to listen to my voice and you'd rather just watch, or not watch, but read, if that's the way you learn better. But basically, you're going to go to the bottom, you're going to go to the GitHub, and you're going to click it, and it's going to bring you to Jared Scar's GitHub for all of his scripts, which is the API, Discord Ace Perms, so on and so forth. So you're going to go ahead and download this one, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it on my desktop since that's where I have the rest of my stuff right now. And let me find it there. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and move it here in the middle with the rest of the stuff that I'm working on. So that is the API, and then I'm also going to, in this tutorial, download the Ace Perms. Again, Ace Perms requirements, which is the GitHub. Download the this is the API. Scroll down a little bit to the download. This will bring you to the GitHub code, download zip, same place. And now you have both of the scripts that you need for this first tutorial, which is installing Ace Perms in the API. And the next thing you're going to do is go over to the Discord developer portal where you made an application. Doesn't matter what it's called. You can name the application whatever. That's not going to matter. What is going to matter is when you go ahead and make a bot, which is what you need to do in order for your server to register roles and put them into your server. Now, for some reason, test bot isn't good, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to my name and see if it prefers that better. Wonderful. All right, so here you're going to have a token. It is okay not to reveal your token. In this video, I'm going to reveal my token because this is a bot that I'm going to delete right after. It's not going to matter, but in a real world scenario, you're not going to want to leak your key because this is a very, very, very fundamental tool for your bot. And if you give this key out to certain people, they'll have access to essentially do anything they want with your bot. It basically grants full control over your bot and what your bot can do based on whatever code it's attached to. And you can also change this by, of course, making your bot public and private. You can require OAuth 2 code grants, meaning you'd basically be the only person who can get into it. But besides all that, the first thing we're going to do is add it to our server, which I'm assuming you would have a server. If you don't have a server, make a new server on Discord. This is what you're going to need. And you can make as many channels, as many roles. As you can see, I just have one channel and 5 roles for the rest of the videos that are going to go up in this little series on Discord Ace Perms and all of Badger's scripts. So I have 5 roles here that are basic, and they're going to stay like that until I'm entirely done with this whole series. So what I'm going to do is go to my OAuth 2 and go to the URL generator and come down here in the middle for scopes. I'm going to click this bot one. And now you don't have to give it any permissions. Essentially, if you give the bot, if you select any of these bot permissions, it will create a role that matches the name of the bot. It's completely up to you if you want to do this. I'll just go ahead and give it the administrator tick so that it has all permissions by default and it would be able to see through any channel. And of course, you can just copy this link, put it in a new web URL, and then you can add it to a server. So I'm going to add it to test server, and it's going to ask you if you're sure you want to give it that permission. And of course, you're going to have to fill out this. So let's see, we're looking for a vertical river. There we go. All right. And you can close it. And if you look back at your Discord, there's now a bot named SFUOW inside the server. Now the bot's going to be offline. It doesn't matter if the bot's offline or online. It's whatever. It basically, all that's going to happen is the bot is going to be triggered from your server externally. So you're not going to have to worry about much more than it just registering that roles exist in your server, which is really the only thing that you're using it for. You of course can, put it on TXadmin and go to your master actions, or sorry, your settings, and go to the Discord and, enable the bot and put the token or whatnot. This is completely up to you. I'm just doing the most simple thing because that's what works for me at this point in time. So once you have your bot in your server, you're good to go, and you're not going to have to worry about much more unless you don't have roles. In that case, add the roles that you're going to want to have certain permissions in your server. But that's something we'll get into a little bit later. So if your Discord is all set up the way you like it, you can go ahead and move on to installing the scripts. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up my server files here. I think I already have them open. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and open up, and I'm going to go to my resources folder. Now I like to stay organized when I'm doing coding or installing scripts into servers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an entirely new section dedicated to just Discord. Now you have to be careful about this because normally some people will ensure like entire sections of like scripts. So instead of, say, starting every individual script inside of this folder, they would just go to their server CFG and type ensure Discord like this. Now that is okay for some scripts, but in Badger's scripts, the API specifically has to start first. And so if any of those scripts come before the API when it reads down the list of files from A to Z, it won't work correctly. So I'm not going to do that in this example. What I am going to do, though, is start every individual resource once I put them in. So the first thing we're going to do is install the API. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that to my desktop. I'm going to open it once and just drag it to the desktop, and you can get rid of the zip. You don't need that anymore. And I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to get rid of the dash and the main at the end. Now, the name needs to stay exactly how it is unless you know what you're doing. Of course, if you know what you're doing, you're probably not watching this video. So if you do know what you're doing, by all means, edit it however much you want to. But if you don't know what you're doing, this name matters, because if you change the name, it will change any exports that are directly related to it. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it into my Discord folder. And what I meant by the exports is if you actually click into the FX manifest Lua, you can see that there are specific exports dedicated to this resource, which means when the server is looking for these exports, it's looking for the Discord, the Badger's Discord API script, and then these. It's not looking for just these. So if you change the name, it'll actually mix up and get the server confused as to what you're intending to do. So do not change it again unless you know what you're doing. You can get rid of any of these license or readmes because I'm going to explain everything you need to do. It's basically just the same stuff that was in the documentation folder. But enough of that. We're going to go into the config, which is the only thing you're actually going to need to change inside of this. Now, there's a couple things you're going to need. You're going to need the guild ID, which is your Discord server ID. And then you're also going to need the token of the bot that you used. Now remember, I said I'm going to use my token and I'm not going to blur it out because I'm just going to delete the bot afterwards. However, if you intend to keep your bot for a long period of time, do not give your bot token out easily, because anybody who has access to your bot token, again, will have access to your entire bot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Of course, we're also going to need to set up this role list, and I'll show you guys how to configure that as well, so don't you worry about that, and we'll go slow with it. And there are new options as of a few recent updates ago. there are caching of Discord roles. Essentially, if a player, and it kind of says it here for you, in case you don't want to listen to me, if a player leaves the server, it will actually cache the roles that they were assigned to. So if they connect back within a X amount of time, they will actually still just have those. So it basically takes off a little stress of having to run it back and forth, trying to determine what roles people have. And there's also the splash header, which I'm going to disable because personally I never liked the splash header. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off from the start, but it's completely up to you however you want to keep it. So now that I'm looking for my guild ID and my bot token, I'm going to go back to my Discord and I'm going to right click on the top. And at the bottom, there's a copy ID. Now, if you don't see this copy ID, or later on, I'm going to add roles. And if you can't, right click and copy an ID. The way you fix this is by going to your user settings, going to advanced, and selecting developer mode. And make sure developer mode is on. You don't actually have to turn it off as soon as you're done with this. You can just keep it on in general because developer mode is actually very useful and it doesn't cause any extra stress on your Discord application, so it really doesn't matter. So once you've right clicked and copied your test or your Discord server guild ID, you can go ahead and come back and paste it inside of your guild ID brackets or your guild ID parentheses or apostrophes, whatever you want to call them. And then you're also going to need your bot token. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to the Discord developer portal, back to the bot section, and up at the top, here's the token. Now I can click to reveal it, or I can just simply copy it. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it right in there. And then now we're going to configure our role list. Now your role list does not matter the exact order that you put the roles. It does in some of his scripts, and it'll actually tell you which scripts it does because you'll see it. It'll have brackets and it'll explain it basically in plain English on what you need to do. But in this case, it doesn't. And so for this, we're just going to go from top to bottom, from role 1 to role 5. So the way you're going to do this is by entering straight brackets for both a open and a closed straight bracket. And then putting an apostrophe inside, and in the text editor that I'm using, it will automatically give you both. So it'll put your cursor or your little text thing inside of them. And then I'm just going to name this role 1. Now you can name this one whatever you want. This is going to act essentially as a nickname for whatever role you're using. So I'm just going to nickname it as role 1, and this is useful for other Badger scripts because if you say you want to, you're basically creating a dictionary here. So it defines role 1 as a certain role ID, and so we'll see it here in a second. So just to finish this off before I go into that explanation, you're going to go role 1 or open brackets and then apostrophes, nickname your role. Make sure you have the closing for it, equals, and then parentheses, or sorry, not parentheses, quotes. And now here, you're going to need to go back. And again, this is where having your role IDs or your Discord developer portal, or sorry, not your Discord developer portal, but your Discord developer like application, this is where that helps. So you can just right click and copy the ID of an individual role. So here is the role ID that I'm using, and then you're just going to put a comma at the end of the line. Make sure you keep the commas at the end of the lines. That makes sure that the script knows that it can continue on. And I'm going to duplicate this 5 times because I have 5 roles. So 4 and 5. And then I'm just going to nickname these as I need them. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then again, going back, right clicking on each individual role and pasting the different role IDs for each. Now this can be a little tedious, but it will save you a lot of time in the future because essentially what you're doing here is setting up a dictionary that's going to define what different role IDs mean. So what I can do in some of his other scripts, and you'll see this in later tutorials during the series, is that you can either use the nickname, which is what you named it over here, or you can use the role ID to determine whatever it is. Now, it can be very useful because remembering a long line of numbers like this is not necessarily easy for a lot of people. So instead of remembering 9, 4, 8, so on and so forth, you can just say, oh, Well, this role right here, this role ID is related to role 2, so I can just use role 2 to determine that it is this, because it'll just go back, talk to this script, and say, hey, what is this role? Now, if that role that you say set it to doesn't exist, it will not work because it doesn't exist here, and there's no role ID connected to it, so it'll just go back in loops, and it won't actually do anything. But so for here, I have all of my role IDs. All of my role IDs are separate, and they're all looking good. And again, you're going to keep the commas. Make sure you have commas at the end of each line. You're going to need those to make sure that the script recognizes that there's a new line underneath. And once you have all of those set up, your Discord API is set up and good to go. So you can close out of this at this point. You're not going to need this. And I'm actually going to go to my server CFG, and just so that I don't have to do this later on, I'm going to first ensure Badger's Discord API, and I actually think it is Badger Discord API, not Badgers. So Badger Discord API, and another way you can just go back and check is just going back to wherever it is that your script is, renaming it, going back into your server CFG, and just pasting it over it. So now that that's right, I'm going to make a new line and type ensure for the next script. So now that I have his API set up, I'm just going to go ahead and drag that. Actually, it's already in there, so I don't have to do anything else. So I can just remove it off of my desktop because that's no longer needed. The next, I'm going to open up the Discord Ace Perms and do the same thing. So drag it to my desktop, get rid of the zip because I don't need that anymore. Make sure I rename it and get rid of, now in this one it's dash master, so you're just going to do the same thing, get rid of the dash and the master afterwards. Make sure that it stays the same. All the Badger scripts need to stay how they're named, unless you know, again, what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you're probably not watching this video. So if you know what you're doing, feel free to edit it however you're going to edit it. For the sake of the tutorial and making sure that you do this correctly, we're not going to change the names of any scripts that we use. So we're just going to keep this as Discord Ace Perms, and we're going to move it into our Discord folder. Now we're going to go in here, and again, you can get rid of the license and the README because I'm going to explain it. And we're going to go into the config Lua. And in here, you're going to set a server name. So for this, I'm just going to set test server. You can use whatever. So I'm just going to use test server. And you can change the website to whatever you want. So I'm just going to use Google here. All right. Now, here is your role list for Discord Ace Perms. So the difference between the API and Ace Perms is that the API is setting a role ID to a name, to a nickname that you can use in other places and other scripts. This is setting a role ID to an Ace group. Now, an Ace group is how you determine, say, vMenu permissions. For a lot of people, that's what they're using this for, is a vMenu server, and they need to make sure that people are getting groups based on their roles. So here is a prime example of it. Here's a role ID that is linked to the group.owner group, which is, it's just a simple Ace group. And the way you create Ace groups is just by saying that you want it to be a group. So if I assign this to group.owner1, well, now owner1 will exist. But I'm just going to get rid of that and go back to the way it was. So there are 6 here. So I'm just going to get rid of this top one because I'm not going to use that. Again, configure this role list your way. This is the way that I'm doing it because this is what it's going to sue me for. So make sure you change this based on whatever you're doing. So if you have more or less roles, depending on whatever type of server you're running, that's perfectly fine. There's no issues with that whatsoever. So I'm just going to actually set these to role 5. And I'm actually just going to do these. Yeah, I'm just going to do the groups the same as the roles, just to keep it simple. So it's group.role 1 through 5. There we go. And then again, I'm going to go back to Discord, right click on each role, and copy the ID of each role. Like so. And again, this is the most tedious part of this. Once this is done, you're on the home stretch and you are pretty much good to go. So here we go. We have all of our roles configured. Now you can actually, what you can do is if say it's unclear as to what the group is because the group that you're using, like the name of it, doesn't make sense. For example, this is role 5. Say I wanted this to represent my owner role. Well, I can just put as a comment next to it owner, and then here as say management, and then here as admin, and then here as staff, and then here I can put say something like civilian. Right, if I could spell correctly. Now these are just examples. You don't have to do this. This is just what I'm doing as an example to show you everything that you can do with it. There's a lot you can do with this, and a lot of it is just going to be you experimenting, which is perfectly fine. That's what you're supposed to do. So by all means, go out on your own and do whatever you have to do whatever you want to do really, and just experiment with it, because that's what coding is at the end of the day. It's your own experiment. So I'm also going to add this one in before I finish. So I'm just going to go Discord Ace Perms. So now that you have actually put it into your server and it's here, there's one more step that you have to do, and you have to actually give Discord Ace Perms access to add you or add any user to the user group, because they don't automatically have access to that due to the way that FiveM is set up. So the way that you give access is by adding an Ace. And so you're just going to type a simple line like you would for any other Ace group. So you're going to add Ace to the resource, which is Discord Ace Perms. And then you are going to give it access to 2 commands here. You're going to give it access to command.add principal. And you're going to allow that. And then you can just copy this entire line one more time. And the only thing you're going to change is from add principal to remove principal. And now that it has access to do both of those things, you're set. There's nothing else that you have to do here. You can exit out of your server CFG, minimize this, and start up your server and see that in the live console, and here, let's see if we just restart our server here. You can see that the scripts have started with 0 issues, and it's actually set the permission system guild to the test server, and it has pasted the guild ID here. Now I can connect to the server just to show you that it works, which I'll do here in a second. Alright, so you can see here that we are finally getting into the server. So it's only going to take a couple more seconds to load everything that we need. And realistically, the only thing that I was attempting to show you here was that when you join the server, it will automatically add you to the groups that you have. So because I have every role in my server, which is role 1 through 5, it has added me directly to all of these groups without any issue. And of course, if it doesn't look like this, you definitely did something wrong. So I would go back and check out your system and make sure that you haven't messed anything up. And then that's pretty much all there is for Discord Ace Perms and the Discord API. If you have any questions about that, feel free to leave a comment in the description below. Or, sorry, leave a comment in the comment section below. I apologize. I am way too tired for this at 1:38 in the morning. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. Have a good one. Peace.